Hello, I'm Maciej, Mikos, and you're watching World Talks. Ukrainians have sent their peace plan counter-proposal to Donald Trump, and the latter has been invited to discuss its terms in Europe. Will the American president accept the invitation, or will he try to reach an agreement with Russia, sidelining his traditional allies? To talk about it, we're joined by William B. Taylor, former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon, Maciej. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Now, Mr. Ambassador, do you think that Donald Trump will in fact listen to his countryman, Pope Leo, and meet with European leaders to discuss peace terms for Ukraine?
I think he will. Maciej. President Trump understands the importance of the Europeans in this issue. He understands that the Europeans are very likely to be the ones providing a security guarantee for Ukraine, backed up by the Americans. He also understands that the Europeans have a lot to say about these frozen Russian central bank assets that are in Europe, and that the Europeans are working to release to be able to support Ukraine. So the Europeans have a lot at stake, and they also have a lot to contribute to the resolution of this issue.
And yet, German Chancellor Merz said today that Europe will not allow itself to be divided by anything or anyone. Now, we used to hear such words about Vladimir Putin, but Merz is clearly pointing at Donald Trump. Now, is a weaker and divided Europe a good option for the US in terms of the region's stability?
Not at all. Not at all. The United States is very eager to see a strong, united Europe. We would like to have a strong, united Europe working alongside of the United States, alongside of us, in support of Ukraine. And that can happen. And that's what's been happening. The support for Ukraine from Brussels and the rest of Europe and from the United States has enabled the Ukrainians to hold off the Russians for nearly 4 years.
Mr. Ambassador, why are diplomatic efforts accelerating with the end of is it just me, or is a Christmas peace still a possibility, or maybe just wishful thinking?
Everyone wishes for peace. No one more than the Ukrainians. I just got back from my 12th trip to Ukraine since the big war started in 2022, and the Ukrainians are tired. You know this, Maciej. They are exhausted, but they are eager to have an honorable peace. They will continue to fight until there is an honorable peace, that the Russians stop the aggression. So no one wants peace more than the Ukrainians. And if it can happen tomorrow, great. If it can happen by Christmas, great. If it has to go into next year, then that's what it has to happen.
Well, Donald Trump puts more pressure on Kiev, demanding that Ukrainians give up Donbas in order to reach a ceasefire with Russians. Now, could they simply reject this proposal and continue fighting? And then again, is it in Europe's interest to continue bleeding out the Russian army in Ukraine, and is it in Kiev's interest too?
It's in Kiev's interest, and it's in European interest, and it's in American interest that the Russians be stopped. In particular, in Ukraine. That's important. And the Ukrainians are doing exactly that. And the Americans have been supporting and continue to support in different ways than they did in the past. But that support needs to come. The pressure needs to come on Putin, not on Zelenskyy. And there are ways to do that. There are ways to put pressure on President Putin.
And Donald Trump has repeatedly stated that he sees a willingness in Russia's leader to end the armed conflict. But in fact, has Russia's position changed in the last few weeks, or is it still repeating the very same demands which led to the invasion in 2022?
Maciej, you're exactly right. There's been no change. There is no change in the Russian position. They want to dominate Ukraine. They want to eliminate Ukraine. Putin wants to have Ukraine as another Belarus, as just part of Russia. So no change, no indication they're willing to compromise, no indication they're willing to negotiate seriously. So I think President Trump has wished for a different Russia, but he's not gotten it.
We've talked about a strong Europe for a while now. Ukraine's EU accession talks are progressing quite fast. Now, could the sheer membership in the EU be a security guarantee for Ukraine?
It is part of a security guarantee, Maciej. So the Ukrainians see membership in the European Union as part of, as actually one of four main parts of the security guarantee. The first part of their security guarantee is their own army, supported by the Europeans and supported by the Americans, but their own army. The second is the coalition of the willing, who are planning, as you well know, to put troops on the ground once the fighting stops. And the third is EU membership. This is part of a security guarantee that the Ukrainians put a lot of credence in. And the fourth, of course, is the economic issues that we talked about, the frozen Russian assets, and we talked about sanctions on the Russians. So those are the components. EU membership is an important part.
Now, the Ukrainian proposal, or counter-proposal to Donald Trump's 28 points, allegedly envisages the creation of a demilitarized zone along the line of contact with the Russians. Now, who would patrol it? Who would safeguard it? Is Europe still willing to send its peacemakers there after Donald Trump announced his security strategy, which clearly makes Europeans responsible for their very own countries rather than taking, much care of Ukraine?
So, yes, Europeans, including Poles, are recognizing that the Americans are not going to be in Europe forever. But they're there now. We are there now. The Americans are there now. We're going to continue to support, at least for now, all of the commitments that we've got, including the defense of NATO as part of NATO, but also including support for Ukraine. That said, it is important for Europeans to be building up their capabilities, building up their military capabilities, their defense industrial capabilities, their leadership in security issues, and their support for Ukraine. This is going to be part of what allows Ukraine to succeed, to prevail. Strong European support, strong American support, but that European support has been growing and needs to continue to grow.
Lastly, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has proposed to organize a referendum on ceding parts of Ukraine's territory because apparently, in accordance to Ukrainian law, he is not able to do that himself, right? So he proposes a referendum for the whole nation to decide. But that, I guess, would mean that first a ceasefire of a sort must be reached. Now, do you think that the referendum will in fact take place?
Well, there recently been a lot of talk about elections, and I guess the election would be a form of referendum on any kind of a peace deal. However, it is, as you just pointed out, it's impossible to have an election, a referendum, while the Russians are bombing Ukrainian cities. You can't do it. You can't pull Ukrainian soldiers off the line with Russia. The Russians will just attack. They'll take advantage of that. You can't have people going to polling places and be vulnerable to Russian bombs. So very clearly, any election, any referendum needs to happen only after there's a security guarantee. President Zelenskyy has said, fine, I'm perfectly willing to go to an election if the Americans and the Europeans can assure me that it will be secure. So a security guarantee going into effect now rather than waiting for the ceasefire. But in fact, in practical terms, no election can happen until the Russians stop the war.
William B. Taylor, former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, was our guest this afternoon. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. My pleasure, Doc.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for more interviews here on TVP World.